first time you're shot at, you feel so vulnerable. Or you feel like, man, I could have lost my life. I could have been killed. It began to shape me as a leader. One of the big secrets of law enforcement is that we have more officers killed by suicide every year than we have killed in the line of duty. There's a lot of shame associated with it because I feel weak, because I felt like Superman. And now that I hear that I've got to talk to a peer or a professional, I heard that I'm not as strong as I thought I was.
Welcome to Learning from Leaders, a podcast from Southwestern Medical Foundation where we dive into a world of wisdom, mentorship, and innovation, exploring the insights and life lessons of seasoned community and business leaders. I'm Michael McMahon, President and CEO of Southwestern Medical Foundation. I invite you to subscribe now and join us on this empowering journey of growth and leadership. Now, let's learn from the best and drive meaningful change together.
Welcome to another episode of the Learning from Leaders podcast. I'm your host, Lili Clark, and today we have the distinct honor of speaking with Chief David O. Brown, a revered figure in law enforcement and community leadership. Chief Brown served as the Chief of Police for the Dallas Police Department from 2010 until 2016. After retiring from the Dallas PD, he continued to influence the field of public safety and leadership as an ABC News contributor before going back into policing as the superintendent of the Chicago Police Department. In 2023, he returned to Dallas to serve as the COO of Loncar, Lyon, and Jenkins law firm. That is quite the career. And with that, Chief Brown, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Lily. Good to be here.
Thank you. So to get us started, I want to talk about Dallas. So Dallas is where you were born and raised, and you have such an incredible impact here. Could you tell us about just what it means to you to be back in your hometown?
There's no place like home. I'm getting adjusted to the weather because getting adjusted to Chicago's weather was the windy city. I mean, it's really, really cold. Much longer in Chicago than it is in Dallas. But being around family and friends and loved ones, people I've worked with for a lifetime, most of what I've done has been in Dallas, and I just love this city so much. So it's really, really heartwarming to be back home, finally.
Of course. Well, welcome back. A little belated, but welcome back. And we're currently sitting in a place that's very important to you, has a special part in your history. We're here at the Old Parkland campus. Could you tell us about what this place means to you and your family? Yeah,
this is really important to me and my family. If you know, and from Dallas, this used to be a hospital. I mean, Old Parkland Hospital, which, on Harry Hines is the new Parkland, further down the street from here. But when it was Old Parkland Hospital, my mom was born here.
Wow.
And one of the things that happened right after I retired in Dallas is one of the private equity offices here that offices in Old Parkland asked me to come and be a senior advisor and have an office there, which was like on the fourth floor. And you can, get chills about all the full circle moments that you could imagine where your mom was born.
Oh my gosh,
now you're
absolutely.
officing, and now I'm back here doing a podcast with you guys.
Yeah.
It really, really does mean a lot to me to be here.
Absolutely. Well, Dallas, just as any other major city, has had its ups, had its downs, has grown a lot. And from what I understand, it's from some of kind of the down moments that inspired you to go into law enforcement.
It is.
Can you talk about some of that?
Yes, I will. So I had no intention of going into law enforcement. As a teenager, as I graduated high school, went to college at the University of Texas in Austin, wanted to go to law school, actually. I wanted to be a lawyer, I thought. And that's funny because now I'm managing lawyers, which
full
is like
circle again.
Yeah, which is like herding cats, so it's much different than police officers. But one thing happened during the school breaks in college is that I would come back and forth. This is the 1980s. This is 1980, 81, 82, where the crack cocaine epidemic exploded in all of our urban centers and all of our big cities, and kids I knew and grew up with were becoming addicted to crack cocaine, and my neighborhood became more and more, increasingly more violent than it had ever been. I mean, I grew up in a poor neighborhood, but it didn't have the violence that we saw after the crack cocaine epidemic hit our city. So disappointing to my mom and dad that I wanted to be a part of the solution, which meant going down to 106 South Harwood at police headquarters and putting an application in to be a police officer.
Wow. So going to your experience at the Dallas Police Department, what was your first leadership role at the department? And could you tell us, did that leadership role come naturally to you? Was it more of a learning curve?
Well, it was a learning curve, but a lot of it, I gravitated toward leadership. I mean, I was always the person in my neighborhood to break up fights and to calm tensions so we could get back to having fun and playing. So I've always had that kind of calming effect on people I've been around. I'm very level-headed, always have been. I'm what they call in my neighborhood an old soul. People who, I've always conducted myself like an old person even when I was really, really young. I like being around older people still today. Even though I'm older now, but yeah, I like being around people older than me. And so, one of the things that I really loved enjoying was when I became a sergeant. To answer your question, it's the first leadership role. I was still very young. I promoted through the department pretty young. I could take a test pretty good, so I always did well on promotional tests. And I was just a very young sergeant, and so I was supervising people with more time on the police department than me and older than me. But those experiences actually helped me grow as a person and on how you treat people with respect, regardless of your rank.
Absolutely. And throughout some of these experiences that you're talking about, I'd love to hear how you have thought about effective team building in the department.
Right. So people don't follow your instructions as a supervisor until they know they care about you, that you care about them. And you really have to invest a lot of time into showing people you actually care about them as people. And this is not anything new. People think that's something you ought to do today with millennials and Gen Z. You had to do that with baby boomers and that generation as well, which I'm a part of. I'm the late part of baby boomers, born in 1960. So one of the things I learned pretty quickly is that, you can have the title and you could tell people what to do, but they either do it begrudgingly or they sabotage you doing it or they half do it until they know you really care about them and who they are as people and what they're going through. So that's one of the things that I think as I've traveled across the country in supervisory roles, most people miss that part of supervising people. Yeah. They really think that the promotion means they got to do what you tell them to do. And that actually, it doesn't mean that at all. Yeah.
So after you became chief, what was the first big moment of kind of learning a hard lesson in that role?
Yeah, one of the things I always talk about with leaders is that so much of what you do is amplified beyond how you say it or do it, particularly missteps or how you talk to people. And this is a lesson I learned not as chief, as I made lieutenant, which is 3 steps below chief, where I was, over a larger group of people and still hadn't learned the lesson to show them you care yet enough, and trying to tell very, very senior, mature people in the profession what to do as if I knew best without asking their opinion. And, an older gentleman I was doing that with, he was a lieutenant as well. He actually got so emotional he started crying. And it made me feel so bad. I said, I just stopped the meeting and got him off to a private area and apologized profusely. Mm-hmm. We became really good friends, but that's a lesson I really learned that was a hard lesson, is that when you're in charge, how you talk to people is amplified beyond kind of maybe what you meant.
Absolutely.
And if you just hurt yourself sometimes, you would dial it back quite a bit. So as chief, I was dialed back quite a bit. I really didn't. I don't believe in yelling and screaming at people. I don't believe in cursing people. I don't believe in telling people to do something that you're not willing to do. So, I learned a lot of lessons before being chief, but my big lesson as chief was to remind myself how amplified your jobs are when you become that top figure in an organization.
It's a great lesson. And I'd love to hear, so of course, in a role such as those of officers in your department, I imagine you often find yourself in high pressure or stressful situations. Yeah. How have you kind of fostered a sense of resilience on your teams before?
Yeah, one of the things that's toughest to do, and it really speaks to your first question a little bit more as chief, is if I have to terminate an officer in their career because they've done something that you just can't pull back, something either illegal, immoral, or something that you can't, try to, get their career back on track. So those are gut-wrenching. You hate because not just the loss of income, it's because you're a police officer, it's high profile, it's likely in the news. And, one of the things when you are doing that, you have to over-communicate to the organization. Otherwise, they don't understand why you're treating someone in the profession like that. They really take it out on the chief as if, you could have done something to salvage their career. And so so the team really is everyone in the organization looking at you. That's the team. And so I would one-on-one over communicate, in groups over communicate. It's tiring. It takes a lot of effort, a lot of time, but it serves you well in keeping the organization together, because when you're ending someone's career, you can actually ruin the organization if it's done in the wrong way. They will not understand, and they will not be productive. They won't have high performance. The community suffers if they think that you're either, playing favorites or just being mean, or doing it in ways where you could have done something else other than that. So, over communicating, I think, is the takeaway from when you have to make tough decisions as a leader. Over communicate more than being transparent. This is one-on-one conversations. This is a lot of small group meetings. It looks like gossip, but you're really talking to people about why you had to make the decisions you made.
Absolutely.
Instead of thinking, I'm the leader, I can make the decisions, and so what? I don't care what you think, but you better care what people think when you make decisions like that.
Right.
Yeah.
So with that, I'd love to learn just what the transition into the role in Chicago is like. What were kind of the differences between these roles in Dallas and Chicago, and how did you approach that?
So I want to set the context.
Okay.
Dallas is a big city. It's the 9th largest city in the country. Chicago is 3 times the size of Dallas. There are 3 million people instead of 1.3. So in the police department, Dallas has 3,500 cops. Chicago had 13,000 cops.
Oh my gosh.
So
wow.
the scale is the biggest challenge, scale. And the politics, Dallas has 15 council members and a mayor. And Chicago has 50 council members and a mayor. So the scale is almost larger than life. It's the second largest police department in the country, second to New York.
Okay.
So larger than life politics, larger than life organizational challenges and issues, and the crime is something that Chicago has dealt with for many, many decades. So, taking small bites out of problems instead of trying to come in and be a savior for the city that's gone through so much. So small bites, a lot of investing in people was kind of the thing I went in there. I said, I'm going to come in here and not bring anybody with me and invest in the people here. That served me well, but again, the challenges persist. Yeah.
Right. So you have spent quite a bit of time and focus and energy in these roles trying to really formulate more trust between the department and the community that you're serving.
Yes.
What are some of the ways that you have pursued that?
Well, again, I can do okay in large press conferences, meeting with a neighborhood or a large community in a neighborhood watch or a neighborhood group, but I do best one-on-one with people. So as many people, it seems like, because you got 13,000 cops and you got 3 million people, one-on-one is not going to get you much. But the idea being one-on-one translates to large networks of people. I talk to you one-on-one and let you know that what I'm about, what I'm focused on, how we need each other. You tell 10 people tell 100 people. So one-on-one actually plays a little bit better than a large press conference or a TV interview, or even a large community that you're meeting with. You got a microphone, you got a canned speech, and you don't have time for a lot of questions because you can't talk to everybody. So I really focused on going to neighborhoods and meeting with as many one-on-one, 2 or 3 people at the most, and just having plenty of time for them to ask me questions and to get to know me and me to get to know them. And that obviously takes a lot of time out of your schedule, but it's what I enjoy most about the job. I always tell cops that I try to mentor this is policing as a business, but it's the people business mostly. It's how you can interact with people, inspire them, show them you care, like I mentioned earlier, or help you solve problems. A lot of times you think I got to bring a problem solution to a community. Oftentimes it's the community that brings you the solution that you have to try to, figure out how to do it. Yeah.
What have been some of the biggest takeaways or things that you've learned through some of these conversations with community members about kind of how they seek to be supported?
People, when you are a police officer in uniform, they're really intimidated by the uniform. You got a gun on your hip. I mean, you got this badge that's sparkling. They really are intimidated. And many may have bad experiences with police. So their lens sometimes can be a little cluttered. And it's really difficult to get to know you as a person. And so that's why you as an officer have to be even more revealing about who you are. I go into conversation with the community about me. I'm married. I've got a daughter. I've had tragedy in my life. I've had tragedy in the profession, people I love. I've lost in the profession. It really hurts. I really identify more with the community than I do with policing. So that's something people, when they hear it, it resonates. They said, I never stopped being the person from my old neighborhood.
Right.
I see this as something that I was called to do, but I have not forgotten where I come from. I mean, people hear that, they connect. And then you have to listen to them say them about the same thing about them. You married, you got kids, what about your kids? How old are they? I mean, that kind of thing. And now that uniform just melts off, and now it's just two people talking. And that's what you want to get to. That's the golden moment, is that when you get to them being comfortable sharing who they are with you. But you gotta actually start this, open that door for them to see you as a regular person who has a very difficult job to do, but I'm working for you as a person.
Absolutely.
I'm not working for myself. I'm working for you.
Mm-hmm. So circling back to Dallas, you've been an incredible civic leader here in the city, including as a board member here at Southwestern Medical Foundation.
Yep.
How have you sought out which organizations and engagements you'd like to be involved in, and what has that meant to you?
Well, first of all, I've said yes to everything. So I had to dial that back. It's just hard to say no when people, particularly foundations, nonprofit, their heart is such the right place that you want to say yes to everything. And my wife started rolling her eyes. I said, she kept looking at me like, I thought we were retired. So she's like, stop doing so much. And so I had to dial it back to 2 or 3 things I really enjoy. And what I like about Southwest Medical Foundation is you're about people's health, physical, mental health. You really, this is, all of us, race, demographics, wealth, we care about our health, and we care about the health of people we love. And so whatever you can do to help a foundation that's focused on health and wellness, I think it serves the community the best. Everything else is good, but if you're not healthy, you can hardly help anybody else. So that's what I really like about being on this one. Others have been about, the focus on some of the more challenging neighborhoods in Dallas that I policed, and with frustration, because there was not policing issues that I was trying to solve. There was other issues like health, wellness, fresh groceries, access to, healthcare. Those kinds of things really were the root causes of some of the problems that played themselves out with crime. And so I've really been committed to finding those kinds of things to be involved in.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, many of our listeners are younger leaders who are actively seeking to find ways to get involved in the community. Do you have any advice for myself and all of our listeners?
Yeah, I would. The main advice I would give is try to make it as personal as I can. What things have your family struggled with? And all families struggle with something. That's going to be the most passionate thing you can get involved in to help someone else struggle with that. And I'm a person of faith, so I believe the things you pray for your family, there are other families not as fortunate as yours that are praying for the same things that just need a little help from someone who can identify with them. Not someone who can identify with it. It's that, can you identify with me as a person? Yeah, I can, because my family's going through the same thing. We're praying about the same thing. So those kinds of things, don't try to do everything like I initially did. Try to find those things that have affected your family and you personally. Those are the things that you will be passionate about, and you really will feel good, that intrinsic thing, that, altruistic thing, that you're doing it because I understand it more so than I'm doing it because I want to help those people. No, I'm helping me while I'm helping you.
That's great advice.
Yeah, thanks.
So I do want to circle back to, I think, 2 kind of pivotal moments in your career.
Yeah.
One being the events on Arizona Avenue, the other being in 2016, the tragedy that occurred here in Dallas. Could you talk about those experiences and how they perhaps shaped how you respond to crises and help lead others through crises?
Right, yeah, the events you're mentioning, I'll start with the event on Arizona. Was my first time I've ever been shot at as a police officer. First time I had to use my gun as a police officer. And it made me feel vulnerable for the first time. I was still in my 20s.
Wow.
And can you imagine when you're in 20s, you think you're going to live for forever. And as a cop, you feel even more invincible because you've had all this training. You got this bulletproof vest on. You got this gun on your hip. You feel like you can protect yourself and nothing's going to happen to you, that you're going to rescue people. But the first time you're shot at, you feel so vulnerable. Or you feel like, man, I could have lost my life. I could have been killed. And I was a sergeant of a SWAT team, and my team could have been killed. Actually, 2 of my members were shot in their bulletproof vest. They survived. But it's the first time I really started thinking about my vulnerabilities as a 20-something-year-old, is that this career can end my life in a moment. And it happened so quickly. So we were serving a drug warrant in a high-risk area where violence had been occurring on this street. People had complained about this drug house bringing violence to the neighborhood. And if you know why I became a police officer, you know this is the kind of thing I'm excited about, taking down this drug house. And so we served this warrant, but as soon as we get to the door, the drug dealers inside began shooting at us. And 2 of my members are shot immediately. We rescued them out, they survived. And unfortunately, one of the drug dealers we had to shoot and kill. You have nightmares about that. You dream it over and over and over again. It's not a TV rendition of being shot at and having to take someone's life. It is very traumatic for everyone involved. Many of the people on that team decided to do something else after that. I stayed because I was really committed to doing work like this, not knowing how traumatic an event it would have on me personally. I was still married with a young child at the time, and really thought about, man, if I'm not here, who's going to take care of my family? I mean, I really, took everything into account. It began to shape me as a leader in caring about cops who I know they're me walking into that warrant, and then they're me after you get shot at, and how many times the trauma affects different people different ways. I can't hold my liquor, so I can't drink. But many cops, when they have trauma, alcohol is that's our substance of choice. As cops, we drink when we're traumatized, and sometimes we go beyond drinking, and it breaks up our families. It does everything. So I know of the cop walking into a traumatic situation, and I know the cop coming out of it, and how different people they become or can become. We're still people mentally and physically. We can lose our lives, but we also can lose our innocence so quickly about this job, and how we deal with it and how we talk about it, and how we talk about getting treatment, talking to someone, a peer or a professional about our struggles. There's no shame in it. And to have a leader say it out loud is so important.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What do you think the longer term kind of impact has been of these events on not only the department, but the broader community?
I've got different opinions about it. I think there's been obviously a extremely negative viewpoint of law enforcement because of the mistakes officers have made in these jobs. But there's not been the same level of understanding when mistakes are not made and officers sacrifice their lives for our communities, and we're at these funerals burying these officers. I don't think there's that same level of understanding. I think people understand when officers make a mistake, they got to be held accountable. But I don't think there's been enough of a conversation about when officers don't make mistakes, or in these traumatic situations, who's being held accountable to tend to their mental health and their wellness and the wellness of their families. I'm saying it's 2 sides of the same coin. Our officers got to continue to put themselves in harm's way, and they are going to make mistakes, and they do need to be held accountable. But they also are going to have, the majority of the officers are not going to make mistakes, but they're going to be facing the same trauma. And how do we make them whole? I mean, I get the criticism on one end. I agree oftentimes when officers make mistakes, particularly when it's not a mistake of the heart, that they intended on making the mistakes. I'm all for holding them accountable to the highest extent. But I have the same level of urgency about holding them accountable to the highest extent as to let's get them treatment when they don't make mistakes.
Right.
With that same level of urgency,
Mm-hmm.
and you keep that same energy on officers who don't make mistakes and do everything right, but they still need our help
Absolutely.
and support.
How can we make sure that officers have all of the mental health resources that they need? And what were some of the ways that you kind of thought about that as chief, making sure that officers had what they needed from a support perspective?
Number one is say it out loud, and say it out loud when it happens. And when I say it out loud when it happens, one of the big secrets of law enforcement is that we have more officers killed by suicide every year than we have killed in the line of duty doing the work of the job. Every year, more. And that's not counting the officers that take their own life when they're retired, because they've just they've survived the career. They didn't survive the retirement. We don't even keep count of those records. So how do we reconcile those things with just ourselves? Officers don't hear it out loud. It's a secret. And when it's said out loud, there's a lot of shame associated with it, because I feel weak, because I felt like Superman. And now that I hear that I've got to talk to a peer or a professional, I hear that I'm not as strong as I thought I was. And I hope that when officers hear it out loud, that they hear, no, you're human. You're still that same officer that showed that great heroism, but you need to talk to a peer or a professional about your mental health. And I hope they hear you're human, but more and more conversations out loud, not in secret, not whispering and gossiping about what happened. It's just, there's no shame.
Absolutely.
You need to say it. There's no shame in talking to someone.
Around it.
Yes, and then the resources got to be real. There's got to be money put behind access to quality mental health care for officers and our communities. I mean, and it shouldn't be because you can afford it or not, or because you have health care or you don't. I mean, it should be accessible to all of us.
Absolutely. Well, I do want to make sure to ask you, what was it like kind of deciding to take a step away from law enforcement? What was that process like, just deciding to step down as chief?
Yeah, I thought about this question because everyone has their time to lead. And then everyone has their time to step away and let someone else lead. And it's hard. It's hard to step away. Most people can't step away. They got to be told to leave, or they got to be forced out, or they got to do something, make a mistake and get fired. I mean, it's tough. So, it's kind of similar to what we see in politics today.
Yes. Is
that people are very good at what they do for a very, very long time. But that long time means others can't mature into those jobs. So I'm a big believer in, I'm very self-aware. Like I said, I'm an old soul. I can kind of see it's time to let somebody else do this. I can kind of see that, and maybe no one else sees it. Maybe someone else will see, oh man, you're at the top of your game. You're seen as the best at this, but others don't see the price my wife and daughter paid.
Right.
The time away from families. I missed a lot of birthdays. I missed a lot of recitals. I missed a lot of anniversaries because the job came first. And there's a time for others to step up and lead, and it's a time for you to step away and do something else and find another purpose. Maybe come back, but you just shouldn't stay in these roles for forever. I'm a big believer in moving on to something else, finding another reason to do things, especially at your highest, most high-performing time that you think you're doing the best. I mean, it's always a time for everything, and I felt like it was time to let somebody else lead. And in Dallas, I had done way beyond my wildest dreams coming into this career. I never had aspirations to be a chief, and so I felt like there was nothing left for me to accomplish in Dallas as police chief.
Has the time away led to any kind of evolved or new approach towards mentoring younger officers or leaders in the role now?
Yeah, it actually has. That's a very, very good question. You didn't write that one down.
I didn't write that one down.
That's actually the best question of this time. So here's what I've evolved to, and it's been quite the evolution. So I'm 63 years old. I'll be 64 in October of this year. You're supposed to say you don't look your age. You didn't say that. So I must look my age. So it didn't come. It's supposed to roll off your. Oh, you don't look that old. So but 63 is, that's a lifetime. My evolution is, it's time for me to plant trees whose shade I won't enjoy. I don't know if you ever heard that saying. Yeah, That means investing in people who will lead, and particularly young people. First being my daughter. She's 18, freshman in college. She's interning at the law firm. We got 2 other interns, but investing in your family so that they can blossom and lead, and in other young people. Real quick story. There was a guy delivering DoorDash to the law firm, and he's young African-American male, and he comes up, he know how to get in the door, and as I was coming to work, I said, "Oh, you come on in, key the code, come on in." He's delivering Chick-fil-A, and he asked me a few questions. He said, "Are you a lawyer?" I said, "No, I'm not a lawyer, but I manage the lawyers." He said, "Well, how do you get to where you are?" He asked me, 20-some years old. And I said, "Well, after you make your delivery, come up to my office." And we had an hour-long conversation about my career, who I was. And I said, "What do you want to do?" I said, "I want to be a lawyer," but he was a teacher delivering DoorDash on the side, working in DISD, Dallas Independent School District, delivering DoorDash on the side. And he says, "Well, how do I start?" I said, "Well, you start learning kind of what lawyers do." I said, if you send me your resume and you're really serious, we'll hire you and we'll find something for you to do here. And he ended up sending me his resume, like right then.
Wow.
You know how 20-somethings are with their phone. I mean,
Right.
it was right then. And we ended up hiring him. He's been with us for a few months now.
That's incredible.
Doing an excellent job. And we going to have him studying for the LSAT coming up. And I got my fingers crossed he'd do well and he's trying to get into UNT Dallas Law School. So planting trees whose shade you won't enjoy. That kind of thing. I really get excited about this, more so, or as excited as I was walking in the police headquarters and putting in an application to be a police officer. I mean, it's equal excitement about watching a young person blossom into who they will be.
Right.
And what little you can do to help.
Well, that's incredible advice.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Okay, so you describe your role now as managing lawyers.
Yeah.
What does that look like in terms of how you think about team leadership as opposed to your time in the department?
So when I was at my best in the police department, I was finding little gems in the police department, people who were overlooked but really good at what they do. They probably did. You know how policing is, there's the boss and then there's the people that did all the work.
Right.
So I really always focus on who's the people really doing all the work. I mean, sometimes it's an assistant or a secretary or some civilian really doing all the work and investing in them and getting their careers up. So I did that a lot in Dallas, a lot in Chicago, and I started doing that here at the law firm, is create a workplace culture where people doing all the work get the raises,
Mm-hmm.
and they get the promotions, and they get the credit. They get the appreciation shown to them. So I'm really focused on creating a culture of people who feel appreciated, that are high performing. They always do all the work, getting their pay, getting their salaries,
Right.
competitive. We always let the people doing all the work salaries kind of linger out there
Mm-hmm.
while the bosses keep getting the raises. So I'm trying to do my little part. Bosses still get raises, no question about that. But trying to get the people who doing all the work, get their salaries competitive
Absolutely.
too, and that kind of thing. So
Appreciate that.
I'm enjoying this at the firm, and it helps the firm be more productive. And you think about what we're doing, personal injury. A productive personal injury law firms get high settlements for their clients.
Right.
Because they feel appreciated and they work hard to get those high settlements for their clients. And our clients are mostly people who can't afford their own lawyer because we don't take upfront money. We only get paid when you get paid. So these are people who would have grown up with me, who need a lawyer and don't know where else to turn. And so I really feel really good about this transition from law enforcement to this kind of work, is that I can help people really doing the hard work be made whole, but I can also have an effect on getting higher settlements for our clients who can't afford a lawyer otherwise.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So you've had an extraordinary career.
I have.
What is next?
Planting more trees whose shade I want to enjoy. I've really had this idea of helping our most vulnerable. In law enforcement, you kind of know who the most vulnerable are. It's the kids in foster care. Those are our homeless. Those are our kids. If you are a teacher, you teach these kids, sometimes you can walk right by them and not know they're foster kids, but when they age out of foster care, it's the vulnerable population that we all kind of don't see. They're in between that homeless and I didn't really know much about foster care till one of my sergeants when I was chief told me his life story. You know how you one-on-one investing in people. He was in foster care, and then when he graduated, the foster parents put all of his stuff on the front porch and changed the locks on the door.
Wow.
Because the foster parents stopped getting money once they age out at 18. And so he said, I grabbed all my stuff and I walked down to the Navy office and joined the Navy. And then he said, I did 20 years in the Navy, and then I hired on the police department. He did like 30 years with the police department. I mean, just was salt of the earth kind of person. He had my same last name. Last name was Brown, but we weren't related. And so he brought me to tears. I can imagine they didn't go to his high school graduation. When he came back from graduation with his cap and gown still on, all your stuff is, I just can't imagine it. And how many other foster kids are having that same experience and have had that same experience. And so I'm trying to figure out a way how to get involved with, I know a few people in foster care who own foster care agencies. This past Christmas, I dropped this on my wife. I said, we're buying Christmas presents for 20 foster kids. And she's like, well, you should have told me more than a week before Christmas. So she rushed out in the Christmas rush and was buying Christmas gifts for all we didn't have time to wrap them. And I just put them in the car in a big Santa sack and took them to the foster care agency. All we were able to do was label them with their names. And so that kind of thing. One thing that I found even in working, remembering the people that work for you, birthdays and work anniversaries.
Makes a big difference.
It's so big. You don't think that's a big deal, but it's such a big deal to have a big to-do when it's somebody's birthday at work.
Absolutely.
And, we decorate their desk and we, have cake and punch or whatever they like. And, but think about that for our most vulnerable, how much more important that is. So, starting to do that kind of thing. So that kind of thing, trying to find those one-off, those small kind of things where you have to invest your time and money into it.
Right.
And not have to go ask the foundation to do it. So it's your money and your time. And I think that's most rewarding for me. Yeah.
So we have one question that we ask to all of our guests, which is, who is a mentor that you've had in your life that has been most influential in how you think about leadership?
Yeah, you're gonna make me cry now. It's been my mom. So I'm a mama's boy. Have been, always will be. But I lost my mom in 2021. So she high school education, went into banking, always was the first Black hired, always the first manager. She became managers in almost everywhere she worked. Call hell being the woman and being the first Black everywhere. I mean, everywhere. It's come home crying, but go right back to work. I never missed a meal. Always had decent clothes to wear. And she just has so many tidbits about how to treat people. And even today, one of the things that really sets me off as a leader is when I see women being mistreated. I just can't take it. I get really close to yelling at people like, why are we treating this woman like this? There were people at the firm that were underpaid that had been there a long time, dedicated, hadn't got a raise in 7, 8, 9, 10 years. I said, how does that even happen? So those kind of things, my mom shaped me to be a champion for women in the workplace. And she shaped me my idea of how you treat people in general. Never mistreat people because I saw her be mistreated. Always stand up for people who are being mistreated. So she's been my mentor. I've had others, here in the city of Dallas. I worked under 2 mayors and 2 city managers. They've been my mentors, Mayor Tom Leppert, Mayor Mike Rollins. My 2 city managers were Mary Soon and A.C. Gonzalez. They were my mentors. Mary Soon was that woman in the workplace that was mistreated, worked her way from a librarian to a city manager, just sitting at her desk, listening to her navigate kind of high stakes politics in this city and come out on top. I mean, it's always been something that I've just admired. So anyway, that's my mentor. Yeah, good. Yeah.
So we've now made it to our rapid fire questions. So These are just fun, 1 to 2 word answers, whatever first comes to mind.
Yeah, good.
Okay. So the first question is, what is the best thing about Dallas that most people don't know about?
Dallas, it's a big city, but a small town. People don't know things that happen in Dallas, like everybody knows. Even though you think this is such a big city, nobody would ever know. But yeah, it's a very small town atmosphere still in Dallas, even though it's starting to really grow. I mean, we'll likely hit 2 million people in my lifetime. I mean, we're really expanding and growing. I know our suburbs are, particularly to the north, but so is the city itself. You know, it's really
It stays
still
very
a small town.
interconnected.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah.
Very much so.
What is your favorite movie?
Shawshank Redemption, even though it's not a police movie. And I've got my thing. I mean, I love my police dramas. I mean, The Wire.
What's the best police drama?
So, The Wire, hands down. Anybody say you're different, they don't know what they're talking about. No, The Wire, it's just authentic. The authenticity about how police and criminals chase each other.
Well, that will be my next show now.
Yeah. It's one of those binging type series. So you have to take a long holiday weekend to watch all of The Wire. But yeah, one of the best written shows. Pretty grimy and gritty, but true.
Okay, I'm gonna plan that long holiday weekend to binge The Wire. What is your favorite breakfast taco in Dallas?
I don't have one. I'm going vegetarian.
Okay.
Trying to, me and Father Time are in a struggle. So I'm trying to, Father Time is undefeated, but yeah, so I'm getting away from, so I'm into green smoothies.
Nice.
So, and I make my own, so
That's very impressive.
So, but my daughter makes me take her to Smoothie King, so almost every day.
It's a good spot.
It is.
It's a good spot. What is the best vacation spot to recharge?
Boy, my daughter and I are talking about that now. We need to go to, we went to Nantucket like 4 years ago and was able to take the ferry over to Martha's Vineyard. And we did it in July. And it was like in the 80s.
That sounds
So
amazing.
nice. It was so nice. So I'm trying to figure out how to get a last minute trip in before college starts.
Oh my gosh, hope y'all can do that.
I hope so.
She's going to sophomore year?
It's going into sophomore year.
Big year, that's exciting.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
So what book are you currently reading?
So I am reading a book called Firepower.
Okay.
Written, and it's a book about a lawyer who took his law firm from kind of mediocre to the largest in the country. And he hired a COO that was not a lawyer, like me. I could identify with him, and who had an MBA but did not have any law firm experience, and treated it like a business, not a law firm, treated it like a business, with the most important thing being how you treat people, how you treat your staff, your lawyers, all the support staff, paralegals, who do all the work for lawyers, how you treat them. And that is how he grew his business, because they began treating their clients like he treated them, and it's a $1 billion law firm now.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
It's a really good book. It's a really good book.
Are you a dog person or cat person?
I'm a dog person.
Do you have a dog?
I do. I have 2 now.
What breed?
So mixed breed, but a Belgian Malinois with German Shepherd.
Okay.
And some kind of lab pit bull that my daughter found. It's a rescue.
Oh.
Yeah, beautiful dog. I mean, so yeah, I'm a dog person.
Do they get along?
They do get along.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah, they do I'm surprised at that, but they do get along very well.
Yeah. Who is your favorite pro athlete?
I'm gonna disturb a lot of Cowboy fans.
Go for it.
But I like Dak Prescott.
Okay.
I really do. I have been on the other end of over-the-top criticism. I love the way he handles it. Most people can't take that. They lash out, get out of character. He's just stayed the course. I know a little bit about him, probably not from him, just so he, in college, got his undergrad, got his master's, and was working on a PhD. I heard that from friends of his. I said, really? No,
do you know what he was studying?
I don't know, but a very intelligent man.
Okay.
I know the play on the field as far as Super Bowls, fun of a lot of criticism, but I like people who can handle criticism and still stay true to themselves,
right?
And be a positive force on the team, because that's easier said than done. Most people can't do that. Most people can't take that kind of criticism. So I really am high on Dak Prescott.
Okay.
I really am.
So that's a natural lead to the final question, which is Cowboys or Mavericks?
Ooh. I got to go with the Mavs.
Okay.
Right now, I got to go with this last season making it to the
Yeah.
finals. People, there's so many takeaways beyond sports that the Kyrie Irving, Luka Doncic relationship has. I think we can all learn a lot of lessons about not just sports and team, but race, and a lot of things that we argue about in this country and divided over, how one group might make mistakes, or how another groups criticize them, but never come to the point where understanding happens. But the play on the court is just phenomenal. I think there's just nothing but upside with the Mavericks. I really am. I've never been a season ticket holder, but man, because it's 84 game season. I mean, it's a lot of games. So, but I might have to go to all the games next year because it just seems so exciting to watch what happens next with this team. They're
Absolutely.
so young but mature, and then adding Klay Thompson. I mean, I'm MFFL, Mavs fans for life. I really am.
Okay.
Still a Cowboys fan, but I'm increasingly more of a Mavs fan.
Love it.
Yeah.
Well, Chief Brown, we so appreciate your time today and all of your insights and your just extraordinary leadership of our city. Thank you so much for joining us today.
You're very welcome, Lily, and you are really good at this. I hope to give you a raise.
Thank you.
Give you a raise. Give this lady a raise.
It's a volunteer position.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, give her a salary. Thank you, guys. All right. Take care.
Thanks for listening to Learning from Leaders. If you enjoyed this episode, we invite you to subscribe now for monthly episode drops so that you can continue to learn from experienced business and community leaders to help you drive meaningful change in your community.